Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911, Sustainability in Your Ear, and I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, your host. You know, we scour the world to try to find things that make more environmental sense, and we were impressed with Omvits, who is a maker of vegan vitamins and supplements based in the UK. They also have been making a lot of efforts to reduce plastic packaging in their product. And we wanted to get them on to talk about everything that they're doing, as well as when they're going to be able to, you, listeners in the United States, will be able to get this. So we have Shameek Upadhya, who's the co-founder of Omvits on. Welcome to the show, Shameek. How are you today?
Hi, Mitch. I'm really well, thanks. And thanks for having me on.
Well, hey, thank you for calling. I know it's later in the day where you are in the UK. Tell us, first and foremost, you built this company as a social venture. What was it that drove your interest in making a vegan omega-3 vitamin and the other products you make?
It's a really good question. I've been an entrepreneur for quite a few years now, and I've been fortunate enough to live in quite a few different countries. And before moving back to the UK, which is where I was born and where I grew up, I spent a few years living in India. And it was through my experiences living there that I just experienced a lot of things about life and just saw all sorts, where it really triggered my thinking on just different levels. I think that's probably where the social aspect of Omvits comes in for me, and why we built that into the company's DNA right from the beginning. I just realized that it was so important for not just companies, but even people to have a sort of deeper level of consciousness about what we're doing here on our planet, how we use our companies, how we use our money, all these things. And I guess this was a great opportunity to sort of practice that.
Now, you learned a troubling fact from the UN about the world's fish stocks, that they could very well collapse by 2048 at the rate that we fish, particularly for things like to process omega-3 oils to create supplements. So you pivoted to an omega-3 oil grown from algae. Is that something brand new?
No, it's not brand new at all, actually. So algae technology has been around for a long time. I'd say as long as biodiesel has been researched, that's where a lot of the money started pouring into algae technologies and algae research. A lot of it was fueled by the energy companies, petroleum companies, as R&D projects, and there's a bunch of scientists that then took that technology and all the research and started to look at, using algae for nutrition. Because I think biodiesel at that point, they realized it was quite difficult to scale up for industries like aviation. So there's quite an interesting story behind algae itself. But to answer your question, it has been around for quite a long time. It's been around for much longer than our company's been around. So we were definitely not the pioneers in developing the algae or the oils from it. And actually, that's one of the things that struck us when we started the business, or when we discovered it as a team. We just couldn't understand why the primary source of omega that we consume wasn't produced from algae. It was just far more sustainable. It didn't come with the baggage that fishing, commercial fishing and fish oil comes with.
Well, now omega-3 is one of the vitamins that's hard to get in a vegan diet. And it's really surprising to me that the big supplement companies haven't started to use a vegan algae-based form of the oil. Let's talk about how you make it. Now, when you talk about algae, a lot of people think of, going out and scraping stuff out of the ocean, but you're doing this essentially in vats. So is this completely free of any of the contaminants that people would normally associate with algae in the ocean?
Absolutely, yeah. This is microalgae, so you need a microscope to see it. It's cultivated in controlled environments, very, very clean environments, and there's no. It doesn't actually, in a way, even though it's a marine, its original source is marine. It doesn't. We don't use any of the ocean water. Nothing's produced in the ocean. Nothing's taken from the ocean. It's produced in laboratories and then grown in vats, like you said. And that's how it's so it's clean. There's no heavy metals, there's no toxins, no microplastics. Often these are some of the things that fish are exposed to.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a very clean process and sustainable process.
So what other vitamins do you make?
So we produce a few. We produce vitamin D, or I guess in America you'd call it vitamin D. It's a really cool product. The vitamin D is very popular as well. We use lichen for that, whereas traditionally a lot of vitamin D is produced from lanolin. And here's an interesting fact: what a lot of people don't know is that lanolin is grease. It's a grease secreted by sheep and found in their wool. So even a lot of people who use the traditional vitamin Ds, they really like the lichen version.
So vitamin D, as it's normally produced, is not really a vegan thing either. It's something that has an animal product in it. So you're also taking that out of vitamin D, and you've got a multivitamin too.
Absolutely, that's right. There's a multivitamin, there's a vitamin B12, and we've got quite a few other products in the pipeline that we're developing. And actually, one of the principles of our brand is that we don't use any animal ingredients. We never have, and we don't intend to going forwards in any products ever.
Well, that's great. But what I was really impressed by was the fact that you're moving towards a plastic-free delivery mechanism. Now, right now you have a plastic bottle that you're selling, but you have for some time been delivering refills rather than selling another plastic bottle in a recyclable pouch. And you're making a change there as well. Tell us what's going on with your refill pouches and how are you getting rid of plastic in all of your products?
It's a really good question. So yeah, we started with the plastic bottle. I was quite against it. I've many times I've sort of questioned the use of plastic bottles, even though in the UK and most of Europe, the recycling is pretty good. So a lot of stuff, if it's produced in the right way, it doesn't end up in the oceans or in landfill. However, that comes down to the consumers and the way they recycle. So there are still some holes in the recycling system, and that's when we said let's try these refill pouches that 70% less plastic, and the customers loved it. We had a really good response. The products were extremely successful, but we're always speaking to experts in the industry, doing our own research on the recycling systems. And actually, just because I think for us, like, we like to take it a step forward, we love to research things properly and actually understand, where are products going? Right. Can they genuinely be recycled? Are they being recycled? And I think the biggest thing is, can they be recycled easily? Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of things that claim to be recyclable, and technically they are. But in practice, there's a lot of products out there, a lot of packaging that doesn't actually enter the recycling chain or the recycling system, because in the local area, I'm not sure how it works in the US, but in the UK, for example, it's a bit of a postcode lottery, or zip code lottery, as you might understand it over there for your US audience. And depending on where you live and what the local process is, two things wouldn't get recycled the same way if they're in a different state.
Or even in one municipality to another. Absolutely,
yeah. So that was a big issue for us, and we just felt that while the packaging had less plastic, we had to take it a step further, and that's where we really got stuck, because we found a lot of materials made from paper and things like that. But unfortunately, with the kind of product that we sell, it requires barrier protection. It can
a
moisture barrier, yeah. And paper doesn't do that, it's porous. And we just couldn't find a solution that was suitable. We found lots of compostable pouches that potentially could have worked. But the issue with those ones is they were using, are you familiar with sort of these sort of plant-based biodegradable plastic materials that are being produced?
By the way, Shameek, Earth911 runs the largest recycling database in the United States. We can tell you right down to your zip code what you can do.
Exactly. So I think that, so you've got even more expertise than me. And we found here that one of the biggest issues was that if we went for a compostable pouch, mm-hmm. it also risked contaminating the recycling that it was placed with, especially if people were throwing that in with their paper recycling. And so we didn't actually go for the compostable pouches when they were first presented to us, and we just waited and we researched. And yeah, just to sort of get into the second part of that story, we actually have invested in a completely new line of packaging, which is it's going to be launched in a few months, in less than 2 months actually, which is super exciting for us. It's completely paper based, and it offers barrier protection. So the new pouch, is a complete game changer. It can be recycled as easily as plastic, and if in any unfortunate circumstances it doesn't enter the plastic, the recycling chain, it can also be biodegradable in many different environments, and most importantly, it's marine degradable as well.
So could you replace the plastic packaging that you're currently using entirely with that kind of a package?
100%, yes. That is our plan. That's what we're moving towards as quickly as we possibly can. We just need to we just tread a little bit cautiously with how quickly we move on the initiatives, because at the end of the day, we do sell health products, and a lot of our customers use products because they've got, some of them, quite serious health conditions. So we cannot risk any of our products reaching customers that have been damaged, or they're just not in the right state when they reach the customer. So I think we still do have plastic bottles. The plastic bottles are completely recyclable and very easy to recycle. However, until we've not fully tested the new pouches out for a while, we wouldn't make a hard switch. But yeah, the long-term plan is to go completely plastic free.
So that's that's an admirable goal, and I'm glad to see you making the progress towards it. The other thing that your company has declared as a principle is that vitamins should be affordable. So how are you thinking about pricing going forward, and what is a reasonable price for vitamins?
Yeah, that's a big question. So I'm going to try and answer that in the shortest way possible. But some of the principles are really simple behind affordable pricing. It's a big question, and I'm sure lots of people have different views on it. And for us, we like to speak to people. We like to speak to our customers and listen to what everyone's saying. And we're also in our team, we've got parents and we've got people who are sort of making their families work and things like that. And you can generally get a good feel for what's affordable and not. And I think it's relevant to where you are and where you live in the world, right? What's affordable to us in the UK, it may not be the same story in other parts of the world. So when we make that statement, it's generally we mean that for people who live in sort of developed countries, where the price points are relatively similar. So like I said, most people can afford a cup of coffee. So the way we look at things is that anything we sell, if a whole family were to buy supplements and provide them to all the members of a family, say a unit of 4, it shouldn't cost more than a cup of coffee. We feel that's reasonable, that's fair. And actually most of our products are less than that as well. So that's what we do.
Now, keeping that price down as you continue to innovate and reduce the pollution associated with packaging generally. Mm-hmm. There's also, potentially a premium there. Is that where you see, balancing both your costs and the cost of the consumer in the future? A cup of coffee is a very relative term.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
If you go to Starbucks or to Pete's here in the States, a cup of coffee can be $4 or $5. If you go get a cup of coffee at a cafe, it might be $1 or a pound in the UK. Mm-hmm. Well, your market is still higher income countries, obviously. Mm-hmm. Do you plan on distributing into low income countries, or is this something that you're thinking about primarily in the context of the US, the UK, and the EU?
Yeah, our primary market, naturally the first one is the UK, because that's where we're based. We love Europe. I still feel European. So yeah, the European country is absolutely one of our primary markets. And like you mentioned, North America. We would love to be able to sell our products around the world in every single country, but I feel like that can take a while to achieve. And you mentioned some really good points. A price point that works for a customer in the UK, or let's say, for example, in New York or somewhere like that. It's not necessarily going to be the case for someone who works in a similar job or a similar role. Let's just say, for example, living in South America or some countries in Africa, or even it just varies. So that's something we need to figure out as the company matures, as we learn more about how to scale into different countries. I think we'll figure those problems out.
Well, and you've been wrestling those with a project you have with a charity called Vitamin Angels. They provide vitamins to kids. How many kids have you helped support since you started?
Yeah, so we launched in the company officially launched in May 2017. So it's coming up to 4 years, and in that time we've provided vitamins to over 25,000 children.
And what does that mean? Does that mean they get a week's supply, a year's supply? What's involved?
It's for a whole year. It's for a whole year. And primarily it's vitamin A. Mm-hmm. So with Vitamin Angels, I mean, they're the experts on. They work on a grassroots level all around the world with underprivileged communities and children, and they identified that vitamin A was one of the leading causes of a lot of nutritional imbalances and problems in these countries. So they decided to have a vitamin A focus. They actually have some other projects that are running that contain other vitamins for other different user groups. But for us, there was just something about supporting young children with their nutrition that just touched our hearts, and we felt that it was the thing that we wanted to get behind and support.
Now, the structure of your company in the States, we use a B corporation. It's probably the most advanced social structure we have, where it's a benefit corporation. It's a company that has both a profit motive and a social benefit. Mm-hmm. So how did you structure the company and think about putting Omvits together in such a way that it will remain focused on delivering a socially just product and experience?
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned B Corp because that's definitely on our radar. It's something that we are going to kickstart that process at some point this year. You're probably quite aware of the process that goes into getting certified. So that's definitely on our plans, and we're really looking forward to being a B Corp certified business. And I think that's going to be one of the easiest ways for us to maintain our integrity when it comes to our sort of social values and goals, so that the company doesn't become something that it wasn't designed to be.
Do you find that the B Corp? So for our listeners, B Corporation has a certification process that goes through a whole list of impacts that the company has, and transparency and the governance of the company and so forth. You just said we're going to tackle that over the course of the next couple of years. It's a long process. Is it a burdensome process, or something that you think is really going to transform the way your business both sees the world and is seen by the world?
Yeah, so some really good questions here. So I know some friends whose companies have been certified by the B Corporation, mm-hmm. and they carry that trademark with pride. The process can be quite cumbersome. It depends on the size of your business and how your business started. So with us at Omvits, we started the business with a lot of the principles of sustainability in mind. So I think going forwards and doing that, going through the whole certification process shouldn't be too difficult for us, because we already practice a lot of the values that the B Corporation expects from its network, of companies. I think if you're a really established sort of blue chip company, global presence, really complex supply chains, I think that process would be much more complicated. It would take longer to, achieve, but rightfully so, because, if we want to move towards sustainability, and especially if companies and brands, want to claim to be sustainable, then I think it's only fair that, there's someone regulates that and maintains the integrity of that communication, because it's quite easy, to say we're sustainable.
Well, as you say, making a
Yeah.
claim requires you to be able to back it up. And the
Absolutely.
transparency involved in B corporation structures is one of the ways that we'll be able to provide that insight for a customer trying to make a decision. And, it's why we're talking to you, right? Our listeners want to hear about what they are buying and how it actually impacts the environment rather than simply take somebody's word for it and blithely go on damaging the environment as a result. Now, you also do other charitable activities. What are you looking at building in as you continue to grow Omvits?
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, one of the areas we really want to focus on is ocean conservation. We haven't dedicated enough resources to that just yet. I mean, we have been in that sort of startup phase. So I think we hopped on the Vitamin Angels partnership, and it worked really well. And we're going to continue doing that. Going forwards, we really want to get involved with ocean conservationists and people working in that field, and find projects that we can support in that whole, in that area of conservation, ecology.
So how can folks keep up on your progress in getting to the United States, and when do you expect to be here?
Yeah, so the easiest way to stay in touch with us and our brand is the easiest way is to follow our weekly newsletter. And you can just easily go to our website, www.omvits.com, and you'll find the email subscription options quite easy to find on the site. We have social media. We're active on Instagram and Facebook. And if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn and connect with me there, more than happy to connect as well. In terms of launching in the US, at the moment, we're aiming for early 2022. But with the COVID situation, I do say that with a pinch of salt, because this pandemic has actually affected some of our international expansion plans.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, we'd like to be there by as early as next year. I think it's possible, but yeah, as long as everything goes to plan and we don't get too many more lockdowns and spikes in the virus, it should be achievable.
Well, fingers crossed on that.
Yeah.
We're making progress, but disease has an unfortunate habit of taking turns we don't anticipate.
That's right.
Can you buy British vitamins and have them shipped to the United States now?
It is possible to do that, and it's something we considered. There's just a few challenges with that. And I guess one of them, like going back to the pricing, it massively spikes the price, right? Because you have to, then the customer is left to pay things like duties and taxes, quite large shipping costs, and suddenly, the product doesn't really carry the same value. So I can understand, somebody who just absolutely wants to buy from a super sustainable company and wants to get their hands on, all these. But I would say that, yeah, it's probably quite an expensive thing to do, to be shipping, individual products over from the UK. So actually, yeah, the plan really is to have a proper operational setup in the US. And the other thing that people love is efficient delivery. You don't want to wait 3 weeks for your products to arrive. And I think that's one of the issues at the moment with COVID. There are sudden delays at the borders, and products can get held up. Even some of the biggest companies in the world, they've got shipments that have been stuck for a while, especially in Europe. I'm not sure how smooth it is with the US.
Oh, we're seeing the same thing, and it's also resulting in inflation, and that's a concern for everybody right now.
Yeah, now, so we feel it's just better to just send, if we can just send, our stock straight over to the US and have it all fulfilled out there. I think our customers who buy in the US will just have a much better and smoother experience of doing business with us.
And the shipping will involve a lot less CO2 emissions too. So
absolutely.
Great gain. Well, Shameek, I want to thank you for joining us and talking with us about Omvits. Have a great day.
Mitch, thank you so much for having me on, and it's great to connect. Thank you so much.
Well, folks, that was Shameek Upadhya. He's the co-founder of Omvits. You can find out more at omvits.com. That's OMVITS.com. This is Earth911 Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, your host. We'll be back with another innovator interview soon. In the meantime, take care of yourself, take care of one another, and let's all take care of the planet.